Thank you all for coming. I'm Michelle Wallace. I'm with Central State University Extension. I cover Northwest Ohio as an agriculture and natural resource extension educator. Today we are going to be learning how to prune fruit trees. We are at Carter Farm. Carter Farm is a Depression-era farm that is owned and run by the Wood County Parks and Rec, and they planted this orchard 2 years ago, so it's a young orchard, and are letting us use it to teach you guys how to prune. It's really important pruning when they're young to get them off to a good start. So this is a lot of the same principles that you would use as the trees grow, you'll still use them today. They have apples, a few cherries, and a couple of peaches here. So we'll get a chance to look. Apples and cherries are pruned very similar. Peaches have a different habit. So we'll get to look at the different. And any questions so far? If you're going to get a chance to do hands-on pruning, and I'll start off by going over the principles. I'll talk about some of the tools, and then we can move to another tree and you guys can get an opportunity to do some pruning. Okay? How many of you have small orchards or are thinking about it? Okay, good. How many of you have young trees? And how many of you have older trees? Okay. The older trees, when they start to get really big, are a lot harder to manage. Pruning is really important for the health of the tree. It's also important for crop load management. So if you don't prune, you're going to get smaller fruit. Your fruit's not going to be as healthy. The tree isn't going to be as healthy. And you can end up with problems, especially with things like peaches, with just overwhelming weight, a lot of small fruit, and a lot of heavy fruit. And then some years you won't get any fruit. So pruning is one of the things that you can do to help manage the crop load. So what we want to try, and when I say crop load, what I mean is we want even distribution of fruit. We want to get fruit every year. We don't want to have years where we get lots of fruit and then years that we get no fruit. So this is one way we can help manage the crop load. I got some tools here, and there's some tools over there that you'll get a chance. I only have one of these, but this is a bypass hand pruner. And there are some in there, and a bypass so the blades cross over. This is going to be your main tool, especially on small trees. We've got some loppers. These are bypass loppers. They are preferred over the anvil loppers. So bypass, it's just a larger version of the hand pruners, but you can use it on the larger branches. And then if you've got older trees, you might need to use a pruning saw. And they have different kinds of pruning saw. This one, it opens up, and then you can close it up when you're not using it. So that's kind of a nice safety feature. So we probably aren't going to be using this today, but I brought it out to show you. Another thing I do want to mention, because disease can be an issue in fruit tree production, trees are susceptible to bacterial diseases, fungal diseases, viruses. I recommend cleaning your pruners, okay? So this is an antibacterial cleaner that will get rid of 99% of the viruses and bacteria out there. Now it can rust your blades, so you need to dry the blades off after you clean them. But that helps prevent moving a disease from one tree to the next. So that's important. If you have an older tree that may have lots of problems and issues, you might want to do it between cuts. Okay, so that's something to think about. They have aerosols that they make that you can spray that are gonna dry off really quickly, so you won't have the rust issue. You can also make your own using a 10% bleach to 1 part bleach to 9 parts water solution, and mix it up. But this way, using this, I don't end up with a lot of cleaner that after the end of the pruning. So that's why I do that. All right, so we've got this. This is an apple tree. We got this tree. And one of the things that we want to look for are the 3 Ds, okay? Those are dead, diseased, and damaged wood. This goes for all fruit trees. We always want to remove, when we're pruning, the dead, diseased, and damaged limbs. So these are young. And what I see here is mostly damaged because we had some deer damage. And they're just mainly on the end. So that's something that I'll go ahead and remove. I want just a clean cut. And here we've got a damaged. So I'm just gonna go, these are little. So dead, diseased, and damaged wood, we're going to always want to remove. The other thing we're going to want to remove, here's the damaged one. We're going to want to remove crossing branches. Now, any of you why would we want to remove crossing branches? Anyone?
For future damage, if the branches keep rubbing on each other?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. When the wind blows, if the branches cross, they will rub against each other and cause a wound. So this one, if you see here, this branch here, it's coming out in an odd shape, and if it continues to grow, it could over time rub up against each other. So I'm going to remove this one. It's also at an acute angle, so we want to look for acute angles. So those are, you've got a 90-degree angle, and you've got a 45-degree angle, and then you've got this really acute, like less than 45. So we want to have nice spread in terms of the angles. Now this tree is doing something really nicely that I want you to see. We do want to have a central leader, which this is kind of our central leader. This one may compete a little bit with that one, but all these branches that surround are coming out evenly like a spoke on a wheel. So when you're thinking about, if you're looking at it from the top, what you want to see is one central leader on the apple tree, and then branches that are evenly spaced, that are radiating around the tree evenly. Yes.
The one that you said was gonna maybe vie for this, that one. Would you cut the other one off?
This one? Or this one?
No, the other one.
This one?
Yes.
So this is kind of probably a little bit of competition. I think I would. So actually, I think I'm gonna probably get rid of this one here because I don't want it to compete with this. And that way, it's gonna have a nicer spread. Does everyone see that? There's a little bit of creativity involved in pruning. So I'm going to give you some advice that my dad gave me. I grew up on an apple farm. We had a big farm. And he would say, may the force be with you, okay? Okay, the nice thing about trees is they're very forgiving. They don't talk. They will respond to good pruning, and they will respond. You can predict to a certain degree how they're going to respond, but they're not going to complain if you mess up. So I want you to take that as, to help. Some people are really afraid to prune, and so instead of pruning, they just don't. They avoid it, and that's not really great for the tree. So we're going to teach you the principles, but don't be afraid. The other thing that's really important is to remove these suckers, okay? These suckers are coming out of the base. The suckers are coming out of the roots. So what you need to know about fruit trees is that they're all grafted. What that means is the bottom part of the tree, the rootstock, is a tree that's usually has really strong, vigorous roots, but the fruit isn't the kind of fruit that we want. The top part of the tree is the scion wood. It is going to bear the fruit that we want. And plants, if you do it well, you can graft them, put the bottom together with the top, and they will merge together, okay? But that means the rootstock is not the desired wood. So be careful when you do this. I don't want anyone poking their eyes. But we got some weeds here, and then I'm just going to go as close as you can to the base of the tree and remove all these suckers. Grafting is an art. It's very hard to get good at it. Now this tie is been used to help train the tree, and I'm taking this part off because this is protecting the tree from varmints. But what I want you guys to do, since you're here and you're going to be pruning, is I want you to see if there is at the base of the tree a label. And it's helpful to have a label to know what tree it is, but over time, if the label isn't removed, it will girdle the tree. So girdling is when it's kind of like a corset on the tree. It prevents nutrients and water from moving up and down the tree. So I'm going to leave the label here on this branch up top. As this tree grows, it'll have to be removed again. But right now, the trunk is getting kind of big. If we don't remove it, it could start to girdle the tree, and we don't want to do that. These here are the spurs. This is where the fruit's going to come out on the tree. And so as the tree grows, these little spurs are going to develop the fruit. So now that I've removed this, there's a little bit, they do have wildlife issues here, so I'm going to try and put this back on here. And the tree is still kind of young. So I'm going to take this and secure it back to the post. If you guys could do that while we're out here, that would really help them out. All right, and I'm going to do this. So something about trees and buds. Trees and plants in general have hormones in the tips, okay? That kind of encourages them to grow. When you remove the tip, it redirects those hormones to the buds on the sides. So when you tip prune, so you've got heading back pruning cut, which is if I was to remove this to here, not all the way to that would be a heading back cut. If I was to take it all the way back down, that would be a thinning cut, okay? So if I do a thinning cut, it's not going to redirect the growth. But if I do a heading back cut, then all the energy that was here would move to buds that are coming out in other parts of the tree. So this tree is not in bad shape. This tip was eaten off, so I'm gonna remove it. These are already pretty close, so I'm just gonna leave them. I'm gonna just take this one off. It's a choice. Sometimes you're like, which one should I take? This one is growing towards the center. Okay, do you see that? I want to remove branches that are growing towards the center because they are going to shade out the tree, and I want to encourage sunlight to come in. So this one, there's not a whole lot happening. If you want to grab some equipment, we'll move on to another tree, and I'll give you guys the opportunity. We'll take a look, and we'll all kind of together figure out how to prune it. So, we good? If you want, you can grab some pruning tools. You're probably going to have to take turns on some of them. The hand pruners, I don't have enough for everyone, but you guys can take turns.
Now, when do you prune?
Okay, so we are here it's March, and yesterday it snowed, and you want to prune in the winter. Last year at this time we had 5 inches of snow, and unfortunately that's when you prune. It needs to be cold, and we do the least amount of damage to the tree if we prune in the winter. If you have a big orchard, you have to start earlier in the winter just to get all of your trees pruned in time. But you want to be done pruning before their buds start to develop and start flowering. You can, it's just not desired. You want to prune the trees when they're dormant.
Okay. Now, if you got older trees that's way up, how far do you cut down?
Well, you want to think about, how much damage are you going to do? You might have to use a ladder.
Oh, I'll do that, yeah.
Or if a pole saw. If you guys know, pole saws work really well. But you want to always, even with older trees, you want to look at it. If you didn't get to the tree when it was young and didn't have that central leader, let's say you have competing leaders, then it's like, okay, is it worth it to remove one of the competing leaders? If I let the tree go, is the tree gonna split? Can I leave it? It's a lot more questions. You want to do what you can. On the older trees, you end up having water sprouts. A water sprout, I don't know if we'll see any today, but it's a tree that's going to have it's going to grow right straight up. You'll see it. It's going to grow right straight up. You're not going to get any fruit on that branch. It's just taking nutrients and energy away from the trees. So on older trees, you see a lot of water sprouts. You want to get rid of them all, okay? So, and they're tiny. They're usually, but if you let them go, they'll get bigger. So, but those you want to remove if you can. You want to remove crossing branches if you can. You want to remove the dead, diseased, and damaged wood and the suckers, even on older trees. How high do you go up? Well, don't put yourself in harm's way. Any of you have crab apples? they just go straight up, like they look like pencils sticking up on the branches, and it's pretty obvious. First of all, they're growing in to the tree, so they're creating shade. They need to be removed. They're taking energy away from the tree, and we don't want that.
They're skinny.
They are skinny. Yes.
I have a pear tree that has branches that are, I think, at a desirable place on the main stem, but they all want to grow straight up, like immediately from breaking from the branch. And I'm wondering, like, is there anything I've seen that you can buy, like spreaders or sticks to hold them out? Are there certain practices you recommend for getting them to grow more laterally?
Yeah, you can take a, like in laundry, they make these little, that you use to put laundry on. Yes. You can take clothespins and hook them onto the lower branch and push them and wedge them out. The other thing you can do is take a big rock and wrap string around it, and then put the string over the branch. You want to be very gentle, but if you use the weight on the ground and the string, you don't want the string to be to girdle the branch. You just gently, it'll pull it down a little.
Okay. Is that like a 1 to 2 year? Like, do you just hold that on there for a season or two usually?
You watch it for a season. You can always just remove it, see if it stays in place. Usually after a year or two, it's good.
Okay.
You might have new branches that you need to do it. So you could do the string and the big rock method, or you could do the clothespin method. So
if we wanted all of our branches to grow this
you don't want them to be completely horizontal. And
what is that called when you have it where the trees are growing?
Oh, espalier.
espalier.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
You could do espalier. Okay. The other thing I will say is if you have any branches growing down, you do want to remove those, because they'll get weighted down with fruit. It doesn't. They could end up splitting and dragging the bark off the tree. Good questions.
One more question. You might cover it with peach trees if you're going to do it separately, but so you're focusing on like a central leader
Yes.
for the apple trees.
Well,
Can you also do like an open vase shape with apple trees? Is that possible?
yes, if you're espaliering, you could do that with an espaliered apple tree. You can make it however you want. With peach trees, you definitely want the open center. And we have some here today, so we'll take a look at some. But this is very common look for an apple tree. But good question.
Okay.
So we do with peaches, with nectarines, with apricots. Those you want to create an open glove. If you want to do espalier, you want to start with a young tree. You want even a bare root tree. You want to start with a young tree, because then, like I say, if it's a whip, it doesn't have any side branching. You just remove the tip and it'll start side branching, and then you can train those side branches. You could do all sorts of funky things if you start with a young tree, but you cannot it's very hard to train an old tree. Just like as we get older, it's harder to train us. We're set in our ways.
Speaking of old trees, so say we've looked at some places with a tree that hasn't been touched in 10, 15 years. Is there a limit to how much you can prune in any given year, or?
So, in general, when you're pruning, if drastic pruning can really shock a tree, and so it's good to try to limit your pruning to no more than a third.
A third. Okay.
Okay. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps. Because it's hard to even know where to start sometimes when you look at something.
Well, you start with the dead, disease,
Yeah.
damaged,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Crossing branches,
Right.
suckers, okay?
And you go, oh, that's half the tree.
And then, get rid of all the water sprouts and try and keep things evenly spaced out. Try to keep things open up to sunlight. If it gets too shady, you're not going to get a lot of fruit. We good? The number of trees you have in your orchard is going to determine how much time you have at certain times of year, okay? So there are some things that you can do in the summer that are beneficial to your tree. Removing suckers, if you can remove them in the summer, that's a great thing, okay? I think that the problem with removing, if you have really tall trees and you prune them in the summer, you're going to end up with a lot of water sprouts, okay? So yeah, you can lower the height, and you can do a lot of things at different times of year, but there are some consequences, and pruning in the winter will give you the fewest number of water sprouts and undesirable growth. So does it mean you can't do it? It doesn't mean you can't do it, but you can end up with more water sprouts if you do it at the wrong time. I will also say that pruning is a process that invigorates the tree, okay? It will encourage it to grow more, okay? So we want to think about that. You're also wounding your tree. And when you wound, I don't care how good a job you do pruning, you're creating an opening in the tree that will let potential invaders in. Insects, disease. So at this time of year, you're going to have the least amount of that. So that's another consideration.
Or do they heal then? I mean, during the wintertime?
Heal is an interesting word. They may look like they have closed up shop, but trees never completely heal. There's always going to be an opening. Okay? It's not. So here we've got some interesting things, and you guys are going to help me. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this label off so that we don't kill this tree by girdling it.
When it comes to wounds, are some things they used to do that we've been encouraged not to do? What are the things we should do?
Okay, so in the past, they used to have this paint that they would paint the wounds with, and it's like a black paint. That is discouraged because what it does is it seals. It was to discourage invaders, insects and diseases from entering the trees. But what it does is while it seals the outside invaders, it also creates a layer where the ones that got in that we can't see, like bacteria, we can't see them underneath that. So it's discouraged from using paint, the special pruning paint, yeah.
The tape was another option.
Tape. So a lot of times when you have a grafted tree, they will tape it around the union. But then you remove that tape because you don't want to girdle the tree. Just like this label telling me what kind of fruit tree this is. I moved it up here because if I leave it, it will girdle the tree and kill it. So tell me, you guys are going to help me, okay? What's the first thing that's obvious?
Say the rootstocks.
Okay, so suckers. So I want those of you to, move this out of the way, and you guys can come in and remove some suckers, please. So your pruners are brand new.
Okay.
I just took them out of the packages, so you're good.
So we don't have to clean them from tree to tree?
You can. All right, so, and get them as close as you can to the bottom. That's great. Okay, so looks like we got some insects doing some stuff here. I'm just gonna All right, so yay, we removed the suckers. What else looks already better? Okay, so what else is going on here with this tree? So looks like a deer took a chomp. So what's going to happen if we don't do something about it? What do you see is going to be the problem?
Water entry.
So we've got all these buds. So this is no longer directing the growth upward. We're going to have all these branches coming off the sides. I think that's what you were saying, right? And we have competition, okay? So we either make this one the leader by fixing this and remove this side one, or we make this the leader and remove this one. What are your thoughts?
I would choose the other ones. Though,
This
as a leader.
one?
Yeah, as a leader, because that one's damaged.
So this is damaged, and you would choose this one.
Yeah.
But you could still trim the top of the one that's more.
So we could, this one's pretty straight. We could just remove the damaged and let this bud here become the leader and take this side one off. It would be a less straight, but honestly, either decision would be okay. So removing this one and letting this one become the leader would be fine, or leaving this one but fixing it. Okay? I do like the fact that we've got some buds on this one, and I'm kind of encouraged about these buds. So there isn't necessarily a wrong decision here, but we do have a decision. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to cut it on an angle, okay, so that when it rains, the water will roll off, okay? So you don't want to do it flat. You want to do it at an angle, but you don't want to do it so close. We want this bud to take off, okay? And by making that choice, I am going to remove this, okay, everyone? Now, if you had chosen this one, that wouldn't have been a wrong choice either, okay? So this one I'm going to remove, and anything. Now we decided, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna prune back, heading back. See if I can get this.
Don't hurt the bud.
Yeah. There we go. All right, so I made a decision. This is kind of damaged here. I'm gonna prune it back here a little bit, and this bud hopefully will take off. Okay, this one is a little bit big, but we've got some nice buds out here, but I think I'm still gonna prune it back a little bit on an angle here so that it's a little bit more balanced, okay? It'll put out new growth, okay? And this bud here I'm going to take off. All right, so now that we've got that.
Would you take off this one here?
Would I? No, I'm going to leave it for now. Well, actually, we could. These are crossing, so we could take this off here. All right.
Now what about the lower branch?
This one, it's not doing much of anything, so you can.
Too low? There's like a threshold.
It just depends on what kind of trees, what style. Like it. I wouldn't say it's too low. You know, I'm planning on doing espaliered trees at my house. Something that you can do when you have not a lot of space.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna start those off really low. So if you start getting the shape of your trees at an early age, even I'm not in love with this. All right, and let's get this. So these are keeping the varmints from eating all the bark around the base of these trees. So
I've heard recommendations of painting, especially in this area because of the snow, painting like the trunks of trees, like white or light in color,
yeah,
for like, I forget what they call it, sun scald. For
Yeah,
like the bark. Is
that-
that a thing
that's
we should
okay.
be doing? Okay.
yeah, that's okay. You guys are great. Thank you for coming out on this wet day.